Imagine standing on the mist-shrouded deck of a submarine in early May 1945. The war finally over. The ocean around you eerily calm. Above, Allied aircraft sweep the skies, and below, the Atlantic stretches in silent witness. Germany has surrendered, but more than 100 U-boats are still at sea, their crews weary from years of relentless warfare. What would happen to these formidable machines that had once stalked the oceans like predators? The story that follows is one of surrender, capture, and deliberate destruction, a tale few have told in such detail. Dear friends, if this video has reached you, it's not by chance. Right now, click the subscribe button and the notification bell. Write a number from 1 to 5 in the comments. I will personally respond to the first 50 comments, and make sure to watch the video until the end. On May 8, 1945, Germany formally signed its unconditional surrender. Within hours, Admiral Karl Dönitz, Hitler's appointed successor and former U-boat commander, issued an order that would mark the end of an era. All U-boats were to cease operations immediately, surface, and surrender to the nearest Allied authority. Across the vast expanses of the North Atlantic, the Bay of Biscay, and Norway's fjords, more than 150 submarines obeyed. Exhausted crews raised white flags as Allied aircraft circled overhead, their once feared Wolfpack fleet now powerless. They navigated toward ports such as Loch Eriboll in Scotland, Lassahally in Northern Ireland, and Portland in southern England. Each arrival a quiet but undeniable testament to the collapse of Nazi Germany's undersea menace. The surrender was meticulously orchestrated. Allied warships escorted each submarine into port, where boarding parties from the Royal Navy and the U.S. Navy seized vital codes, charts, and weaponry. Engineers cataloged the battle-scarred vessels, many barely seaworthy after months of submerged operations. At Loch Eriboll, nearly 40 U-boats lined the harbor like a grim parade of defeat. The scale of the operation was immense, requiring the towing and securing of submarines from every corner of occupied Europe. Yet some never reached port, lost to mechanical failure, or deliberately scuttled before they could surrender. With the U-boats in Allied hands, a pressing question arose: what to do with the world's most advanced submarine fleet? The United States and Britain were eager to study the revolutionary Type XXI and Type XXIII designs, while the Soviet Union, already eyeing the emerging Cold War, demanded its share of German technology. Meanwhile, captured crews faced months of captivity. Engineers and technicians were interrogated for secrets of propulsion systems and torpedo innovations, while others lingered in camps, uncertain when or if they would return home. By late 1945, most were finally repatriated to a shattered, divided Germany. By the end of the year, harbors from Trondheim to Portsmouth were choked with captured submarines. The solution came in the form of Operation Deadlight, a plan to ensure that these war machines would never sail again. By autumn 1945, over 100 surrendered U-boats had been gathered in British ports. Maintaining them was costly, and storing them indefinitely was impossible. The Royal Navy's plan was simple but grim: tow the submarines into the Atlantic and sink them. Between November 1945 and February 1946, this quiet operation would erase most of the Kriegsmarine's undersea fleet from existence. The logistics were staggering. Of the 156 U-boats surrendered, 116 were designated for destruction. The Royal Navy divided the Atlantic into 3 dumping zones: XXX, WWII, and ZZ, located roughly 100 to 120 nautical miles northwest of Ireland. Here, submarines would meet their end, either by naval gunfire, explosives, or simply opening their sea valves. The first phase began in November 1945, as Royal Navy tugs towed groups of vessels from Scottish and Irish ports. But these submarines were fragile shadows of their former selves. Many had been at sea for months, without maintenance. Some were battered by Allied bombing or sabotage, Rust ate at their hulls, engines had seized, and ballast tanks leaked. Winter storms made towing them a perilous endeavor. Inevitably, not all would reach their final resting place. More than a third sank on Route 56 submarines, succumbed to storms or structural failure. Each loss was recorded, but little effort was made to recover them. Deadlight was an operation of finality, not preservation. Once in position, destroyers and frigates ensured the submarines sank quickly, sometimes using aerial rockets or naval gunfire. Among them was U-233-6, the last U-boat to sink Allied ships during the war, surrendered in June 1945 and deliberately sunk off the coast in January 1946. U-295 shared the same fate on December 17, 1945, after being towed from Lough Ryan. Yet some U-boats were spared, particularly the advanced Type 21 and Type 23 vessels, which represented the future of submarine technology. British and American engineers examined them closely, reverse engineering their innovations for post-war fleets. U-2511, Germany's only fully operational Type 21 at the war's end, was scuttled last on February 7, 1946, marking the conclusion of Operation Deadlight. For decades, the wrecks lay forgotten in the cold Atlantic depths, silent monuments to a vanished era of naval warfare. Between 2001 and 2003, maritime archaeologist Inez McCartney led expeditions that rediscovered many of them. Using sonar and deep-sea photography, at least 14 intact U-boat hulls were identified, preserved in the Atlantic mud, a haunting reminder of how hastily these submarines had been consigned to the deep. If you close your eyes and picture those sinking vessels, imagine the echoes of years of underwater warfare fading into the Atlantic. The final chapter of the once dreaded U-boat fleet, written not in battle, but in silence beneath the waves. Imagine standing on the edge of the North Atlantic, waves crashing around you, and seeing steel skeletons rising from the depths. Boats sunk upright, their decks still bristling with weapons, now encrusted with coral and layered with the patina of history. This was the aftermath of Operation Deadlight, a massive effort designed to wipe Hitler's U-boat fleet from the seas. Yet, in its silence, it left behind something unexpected: a sprawling underwater graveyard, a somber testament to the demise of Germany's submarine war. Most of Germany's submarines met their fate in these cold waters, but a select few were spared. To the victorious Allies, these surviving vessels were far more than relics. They were blueprints of the future, technological treasures that could redefine undersea warfare. Between 1945 and 1948, dozens of captured U-boats were retained, repaired, or distributed among the Allied powers, each one becoming a test subject in the fledgling days of the Cold War. To coordinate this unprecedented process, the Tripartite Naval Commission was formed in August 1945, tasked with dividing the surrendered fleet among the United States, the United Kingdom, and the Soviet Union. Each nation received 10 of the newest boats for study, with priority given to the revolutionary Type 21 and Type 23 designs. These submarines were not merely improvements, they were a leap forward. Streamlined hulls, expanded battery capacity, and snorkel systems allowed them to fight beneath the waves rather than merely float on top, a fundamental shift in naval warfare. In Britain, the Royal Navy took several vessels into service for rigorous trials. U-3017, rechristened HMS N-41, endured submerged endurance runs before being scrapped in 1949. Others, like U-190, surrendered off Newfoundland, found a second life in Canadian service, training crews in sonar operations and torpedo practice. The Royal Navy also exploited captured hulls to refine depth charge tactics, detonating explosives against actual German steel rather than mock targets, a chillingly effective form of live experimentation. Across the Atlantic, the United States pursued a similar path, captured submarines were meticulously examined at Portsmouth and New London, where crews studied propulsion systems, silent running techniques, and periscope designs innovations that would shape America's post-war submarine classes. Among these vessels, U-234 stood out, a long-range cargo submarine seized on May 14, 1945, while en route to Japan with a clandestine cargo that included uranium oxide and jet engine components. U.S. naval engineers scrutinized both her construction and her precious payload before she was ultimately sunk in 1947 during weapons testing. Meanwhile, in the Soviet Union, German submarines became templates for their future fleet. Several Type XXI boats were dissected plate by plate, their snorkel systems and pressure-resistant hulls inspiring the Whiskey-class submarines. For the West, this development was alarming. The same engineering that had once terrorized Allied convoys was now fueling a nascent undersea arms race beneath the Arctic ice. Smaller European nations, too, benefited from the redistribution. France, rebuilding its navy after years of occupation, acquired a few boats from Allied stockpiles. U-123 served for several years under the tricolor flag before being decommissioned. Norway used other vessels for training and coastal patrol, while Denmark incorporated German submarine technology into its post-war shipbuilding programs. Yet not every transfer was purely technical. The division of U-boats quickly became a symbol of the new geopolitical order. Britain and the United States had hoped that sharing German technology would maintain balance among the Allies. But as the Soviets expanded their fleet, friendly collaboration morphed into intense competition. The submarines had changed hands, but their strategic value remained undiminished. By the end of the decade, most of the retained vessels had served their purpose and were deliberately scuttled or dismantled. Yet their legacy endured, echoing through the post-war evolution of naval warfare. Picture a submarine slicing silently through the Atlantic in 1945, its hull sleek, batteries humming, a machine perfected for underwater speed. That was the promise of the Type 21, Germany's final wartime marvel. Its innovations in hydrodynamics, battery capacity, and underwater endurance didn't die with the war. They became the blueprint for nearly every conventional submarine built through the 1950s. In a remarkable twist of history, Germany's last U-boat design laid the foundation for the nuclear age, shaping the future of naval warfare long after the conflict ended. Yet while hundreds of U-boats met the cold Atlantic through scuttling or scrapping, a few escaped destruction, embarking on a new chapter far removed from combat. These survivors, scattered across Europe and North America, became living artifacts, vessels of memory rather than instruments of war. Among the most famous is U-995. This submarine surrendered in May 1945 at Trondheim, Norway, later serving briefly in the Norwegian Navy before being returned to Germany in 1965. Today, it rests at Labeau near Kiel, a museum ship alongside the Marine Ehrenmal Memorial. Step inside, and you enter the narrow, oppressive quarters where 45 men once lived, ate, slept, and fought for weeks beneath the waves. The confined spaces, the hatches, the instruments, all whisper stories of endurance, fear, and determination. In France, other captured U-boats found new life in post-war naval service. The U-123, renamed Bleuzen, is one of the few to have seen regular peacetime duty before retirement, now preserved in Lorient, once a bustling base of the Kriegsmarine submarine fleet. Some survivors took more unusual paths. U-534, salvaged from the Kattegat Strait in 1993, now stands in Birkenhead, England. Its hull cut open, the interior is revealed in stark detail, a claustrophobic monument to the men who once navigated its tight corridors. Across the Atlantic, the United States preserves one particularly emblematic submarine, U-505, captured intact in June 1944. It served as a prize of intelligence during the war and was eventually transferred to the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago. Today, it is meticulously restored, the first enemy warship ever displayed on American soil, a silent witness to history. But the majority of Germany's U-boats never reached museums. The wrecks, sunk during Operation Deadlight, still lie along the seabed off northwest Ireland, forming one of the world's largest underwater graveyards. For decades, they were forgotten, noted only in Royal Navy charts, their stories hidden beneath layers of mud and time. Public fascination with these submarines has only grown in recent years. Museums in Hamburg, Kiel, and Le Beau attract thousands of visitors annually, while historians continue to study the tactics, technology, and lives of those who served aboard. For veterans and researchers alike, these vessels are more than steel and rivets. They are memorials to the human cost beneath the waves. Over 30,000 German submariners, alongside countless Allied sailors, never returned home. The machines that once embodied stealth, precision, and deadly efficiency now serve as reminders of loss, innovation, and memory. Above water, preserved museum submarines let visitors walk through history. Below the waves, the silent wrecks of Operation Deadlight mark a graveyard of steel. Together, they tell the final chapter of Germany's submarine empire, a story suspended between history and the sea, where silence has replaced the roar of engines and the tension of war. If you've been captivated by this tale, you might also be intrigued by what happened to Germany's weapons and tanks after World War II. For more stories of history hidden beneath the surface, like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell for updates. History Inside will take you there, time and again.